Dan Slevin is our screen critic here on Nights, pops along every Friday to talk movies, and indeed Thursdays when the Friday's public holiday. Dan, thanks. I'm just going to say thanks for choosing this because I love this piece of music and great taste. Thank you.
It's so beautiful, isn't it? And we're big fans of Max Richter in this house, and this won't be the last time that we feature him in this slot about film music. And the reason why I'm playing it tonight is because last week we had a conversation, did we not, about temp music in film scores and how sometimes while a film is being edited, the director or the editor will use pre-existing music just to sort of give a vibe or a flavour to something, and sometimes they fall in love with it so much that they don't replace it. This temp music becomes the actual music. This was not written for a film. It was from Max Richter's collection, classical music collection, The Blue Notebooks in 2004, but it was instantly jumped on by filmmakers who could tell that it was going to be a really useful piece of music for them. It's been used in dozens of films, including Scorsese's Shutter Island, Jiro Dreams of Sushi. It was in the TV shows The Handmaid's Tale, The Last of Us, and even an episode of EastEnders featured it. And the reason why it came to mind last week when we were talking about temp music is because it's also the soundtrack to the crucial final scene in the film Hamnet, set in the Globe Theatre, where Agnes gets to see the play Hamlet for the first time and understand what it is that her husband has been doing all this time. And that is profound and moving, as the music always is when it appears on film. The only problem is that sound, the score for the whole of Hamnet was actually written by Max Richter himself, and so he therefore kind of got usurped by his own music that had been used as temp track, and they went, well, you know what? We were hoping for something a bit more Max Richter-y from you.
Damn that guy. I hate that
guy. And so, and actually, to be fair, it's not a great score by him, the Hamnet score. And you can sort of see why they would pump for this. They chose the orchestral version rather than the version for 5 instruments that we've just played, the original. But it's can you imagine what that must be like going to work and then finding that actually if something you made 22 years ago is preferred?
I mean, I feel like that would feel pretty good. It's like, the only guy who's better than me is past me.
That's true. It was featured at the beginning and end of the science fiction film Arrival in 2016, and I think that was where a lot of people sort of were first exposed to it. And it was so powerful and so influential that the rest of that score by Johan Johansson was deemed to be not eligible for the Best Original Score Oscar that year because this one piece of music, even though it only appeared at the beginning and the end, it was deemed to be too important to the score as a whole for it to be original. So that was that shows you how many filmmakers want this piece of music and go to it, and there is actually a bit of a backlash starting against it. I think that we may be having a little bit of a rest from the nature of daylight.
That's so interesting. I think there is a real sort of clutch of I think wonderful youngish German European composers who compose a lot on kind of affected electronic pianos with a beautiful kind of atmosphere, like Nils Frahm. I'm a big fan of Nils Frahm's music, and Olafur Arnalds as well, who work in this kind of minimalist cinematic kind of space. So it's cool to see that this is an area of developing music. Anyway, thank you very much.
And no doubt we'll head in their direction as the year goes on.
Indeed. Right, it's 10 to 9, Dan. My word, look at this, and we've got 3 movies to get through. So let's try our best. Perhaps we'll have to skip one tonight. In cinemas at the moment, it's a New Zealand great. This film, Hunt for the Wilderpeople, 10 years old now, which makes me feel old. What have you made of this film and its place, I guess, in the New Zealand cinematic canon?
Well, it's still I think, the highest grossing New Zealand film in New Zealand. I think it's made something over $12 million, and nothing has quite capped that, even with inflation. It was, I think people knew at the time that it was going to be big. It had a lot of promotion and a lot of advanced sort of news about it, and it did have the biggest opening weekend for a New Zealand film in history as well. And it was deemed to be so important at the time that not only did I review it for RNZ in a nifty little video, which is embedded on the night's page. So after 10 years, people hopefully will go back to see some of that work that I slaved over at the time. But not only did I do that, but I was also asked to review it for Morning Report, which is kind of unheard of, really. That film reviews would make it to that elevated part of the schedule, and of course people went. It delivered on every promise in terms of how fun it is, how oddball it is, how very, very New Zealand it is. And I think that is the real lesson that we've got since then, that's come out of Hunt for the Wilderpeople, is that we are now, there is no excuse for us not to be making New Zealand films and going to see New Zealand films. And I think that we still don't have enough, and it's still a hard road to make a New Zealand film here, to get it out in front of the public, but the public will respond. And if you think about the number of people in that film who have gone on to really, really high-profile careers. Obviously, Sir Sam Neill was a relatively big name even in advance of it, but the film made Julian Dennison a star, and he's now an international star. It's a fantastic performance from Rima Te Wiata. We'll talk a little bit about her in a wee while. And Rachel House, of course, who's gone on to make appearances in a lot of big-name Disney and other Hollywood pictures. So, and of course, Taika went on to become a fixture in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think he was already being sort of shoulder-tapped for that sort of career direction, but the success of Hunt for the Wilderpeople certainly cemented that trajectory for him.
I wanted to say, Dan, that I agree with you. I actually think that this film sees something really interesting about New Zealand culture more broadly, and that the story, of course, is a Barry Crump story, but the execution of it, it's like a Venn diagram of that Barry Crump story, his signature kind of, tone and the breakdown of events and what happens. But the execution of it, and particularly the humour of it, is a really good sort of encapsulation of a kind of eccentric, absurdist, slightly childlike, distinctly New Zealand humour, along with, Eagle versus Shark and Flight of the Conchords, where, involving this clutch of really successful and distinctive New Zealand creative people. Sorry, I'm just word salading it at the moment, but do you know where I'm getting at with that?
Yeah, and you're right that it is a kind of new generation take on a classic New Zealand trope, really. I mean, Barry Crump, a famously difficult character and troubled individual, but that whole idea, the Kiwi idea of the man alone in the bush, was a part of our culture for decades, and I think it's really fun here watching Sam Neill actually sort of play on that cliche, if you like, that classic New Zealand trope, with all of this young energy around him, and it sort of brings it into into the modern day, but it also recognises that it was a pretty silly trope to begin with. You know, the whole idea that the Kiwi male is happier basically when he's alone in the bush, and leave him there.
That is Hunt for the Wilderpeople. It's in cinemas now to celebrate its 10th anniversary. We do have a clip, but we've got a bit to get on to, Dan, so should we skip this clip and head into your paid streaming recommendation?
No, I don't think we skip it. I think it's too much fun.
All right, let's do it. Here it is.
Ricky Baker, now you are 13 years old. You are a teenager and you're as good as gold. Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, happy birthday. Once rejected, now accepted by me and Hector. We're a trifecta. Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker. Hip hip!
Hooray!
Good call, Dan. Good call. I'm glad that I outsourced that decision to you.
It's so cute hearing Julian Dennison singing along to his own song, with his own name in there. It's just one of many beautiful moments in a film that deserves to be seen again on the big screen. I mean, it's a bit of a nostalgia thing, isn't it? Now 10 years on, but I think it's good to be reminded of how much fun we can have in the cinema with our own stories.
Couldn't agree more. Apparently, Ursula in Wellington has just sent me a message to say apparently Rima and Sam wrote that song because Happy Birthday was at the time copyrighted and they couldn't get the license for it. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. It was pretty much chained up. Happy Birthday to You for a long time. Yeah. And unaffordable. Good thing
it belongs to the world now. All right, your paid streaming recommendation this week, it's an AroVision rental. It is called Resurrection. It's a Chinese film, Dan. Tell us about it.
Yeah, this isn't going to be for everybody, but if you are a film lover, then you are going to get an absolute kick out of this. We've been reading a lot in recent times about how China seems to be kicking our butts in various areas, whether it's electrification or technology or what have you. Well, I would say that in the world of epic science fiction art house movie making, then they're kicking our butts as well. This is made by a director called Bai Gan. It's his third film, and it is it reminds me of that sort of mid-period Christopher Nolan, only it's even more out there. Really, really big ideas. It's set in a world where no one dreams any longer, except for one person who's considered to be a kind of monster by the rest of the world. He's the only person who can dream, and he's introduced into 4 special dreams by a mysterious woman using the techniques of cinema. So it's like an anthology film with 4 different stories featuring these 2 actors playing the central characters in this guy's dreams, and they get increasingly bizarre, increasingly beautiful, and it is. I was watching this from AroVision and thinking, wow, this would have looked fantastic on the big screen, wouldn't it? And then I realised that I had a chance to at the film festival last year and didn't. Yet another example of me missing the boat. But yeah, still an incredible film. It is long, it is beautiful, it is languid, it is kind of romantic. Each of the individual stories has their own sort of character. And they're kind of stories that have been pulled from film history and film genres. Look, I can't recommend this highly enough. It is 2 3/4 hours long, and so you want to start early. You don't really want to be falling asleep late at night trying to follow it, but definitely worth a watch.
That is Resurrection, which you can find, which you can rent at AroVision. Dan, I'm so sorry I've only left you with about 40 seconds to talk about Housebound, but do your best.
I just wanted to mention this one really from 2014. This was a film that I think Rima Te Wiata showed what immense talent she had on screen. And I remember writing a review at the time saying I hope she gets more feature film opportunities. And of course, a couple of years later, she got Hunt for the Wilderpeople, and that exploded. So Housebound, it's on Māori TV Plus, and it's a brilliant little Kiwi low-budget horror with a lot of humour to it. I think most people you talk to will recommend it to you.
Great stuff.
Oh, and Wallace Chapman's in it.
And look, talk about bearing the lead. Dan Slevin, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you as always.